Hello everyone, friends. Following the situation in Iran, Mexico is now facing turmoil among global events. One of the world's largest cartel leaders was killed, and this operation was carried out jointly by Mexico and the United States. The events began unfolding precisely at this point. After the operation, protests escalated in the streets of Mexico and martial law was declared in many states. Because there, the cartels are as powerful as the state, the cartels are strong enough to confront the state directly in terms of money, weapons, and manpower, and that's why it seems very unlikely that these events will end anytime soon. On the Iranian front, negotiations are ongoing to reach an agreement. Of course, street protests are also continuing. In Iran, where the currency has lost its value, food prices have soared, the internet has been cut off, and young people have lost hope, street protests continue in the same way. The protests led especially by university students stand out, and we can clearly say that these are the largest demonstrations seen since 1979. Unfortunately, any agreement the United States might eventually reach with Iran will not change the current agenda here. And at this point, if we look at the situation from this perspective, if we want to see the market effects of the problems experienced by countries like Mexico and Iran, we can understand this very clearly by looking at gold and silver prices. And these are not the only news items. US President Trump not only announced the 10% global tariff to be applied to all countries, but also signed it into effect. A 10% customs tariff will be applied to all countries, and after signing, he also stated that this tariff could be raised to 15%. And immediately after this, a response came from the European Union saying an agreement is an agreement. We will not accept tax increases above these rates. They made a statement to this effect. And if we look at the root cause of the matter, there are economic problems in the world and countries are clearly unable to finance their debts. That's why they are moving towards environments of argument and conflict with each other. But right now, no country's citizens are happy with the events happening in the world, because in reality, no one is truly thinking about the citizens. To sum up, it is very likely that events in the world will continue to increase rather than come to an end. And this keeps risk aversion at the forefront in financial markets. This is actually one of the reasons why assets like gold and silver are rising. When we move on to the charts, we will talk about these in a moment. And in addition to these, there are also foreign institutions making statements like it's time to switch to the Turkish lira. Goldman is one of them, and they say interest rates in Turkey are still high, interest rates in Turkey are still profitable. The ground is slippery in the American stock market, and distrust in the dollar has increased. That's why it's necessary to move into Turkish lira assets. They made a statement to that effect. In fact, among the latest news today, they have even given buy recommendations for the Turkish banking sector. Of course, if you ask what exactly my opinion is on these, let's move on to the charts and start discussing them. Before moving on to the charts, as always, I kindly ask for your support with likes and comments. Your support is truly very important to me against YouTube bots and algorithms. First of all, when we look at the American stock market side, we see that the Nasdaq 100 is once again a selling index in the futures market today. We have entered a region where the distinct red cloud on my indicator has clearly appeared and the trend has noticeably weakened. Look. In a similar cloud formation, the markets had seen further declines on the broader American stock market side. A similar situation may occur again on the American stock market side if it loses the 23,950 level. In contrast to the negative outlook here, in my opinion, the positive stock market is the Turkish stock market Borsa Istanbul. The technical indicators clearly showed us a significant upward trend starting from the very beginning of 2026. Wow. And within this specific trend, it performed a solid support test. After holding at the 13,800 to 14,000 level, it started to move upward again. During this period, I share similar views with institutions like Goldman. I already had upward expectations for the banking sector as well. I have also discussed these points in other market examples. There were also questions from investors during YouTube membership chats. Overall, I expect the upward trend in Borsa Istanbul to continue. I expect it to continue holding the 13,788 level. In other words, I do not currently expect a downward movement in Borsa Istanbul. When we look at the gold market, this is where I see the most powerful trend unfolding. Look, I have described a very clear upward trend to you. We talked about how after the correction within this upward trend, there was a buying opportunity. I said that gold is at a buy level today and gold has achieved a nice rise from these buy levels. In fact, for those who have been following recently, $4,800 and $4,900 have also been opportunity zones. Right now, it has started to build a new trend for itself. because there have also been closings above the $5,100 level. This week, since gold has managed to hold above the $5,100 level, I think it will surpass the record area at $5,544. In my opinion, gold has entered a full-blown breakout trend. Is there a similar situation on the silver side? There is on the silver side as well. In fact, the events happening in Mexico also have an impact here because Mexico is one of the major producers when it comes to gold and silver. In gold, it's even in the top 10, but when it comes to silver production, Mexico is the leading country in the world. In other words, they produce about 23% to 24% of the world's silver supply. Today, in a market environment where supply is threatened as a result of speculation and production costs are rising, this will certainly be discussed, and I think that the continuation of events in Mexico will bring positive trends in both gold and silver even more to the forefront. There is a clear upward trend. Look, on the silver side as well, silver has now entered the positive zone. It has also risen above the cloud indicator. Here, even though I'm not as aggressive as I am with gold, I'm explaining that it is also reasonable to hold positions in silver. $70, $73 were good entry points, good trading points, and now, within its current range, the $81 level has become a critical threshold for silver. In other words, as long as it continues to hold this level, the next target points for silver will be $91 and $97. In fact, this upward movement is still continuing throughout MTN in general. There is also an upward trend in platinum and palladium, but we can say that the main drivers here are gold and silver because gold benefits from every kind of crisis environment globally. It thrives in an environment where the global crisis threatens the world. Silver is keeping pace with it, but in addition, we can say that the events happening in Mexico today continue to have a significant impact on silver. My general view is that when we look at gold and silver, I would like to reiterate my opinion that the focus should be more on gold. Now, if we look at gram gold and gram silver, let's first analyze gram gold. Look, the 6,690 Turkish lira level has become a very strong support for gram gold. Previously, this level was in the 6,300 to 6,500 range. In other words, this was a buying zone. Currently, the 6,690 lira region has become a solid support as well. My view here is that gram gold will not lose this support level, and with the strong new trend it has started from here, it will surpass the 7,760 region and continue its upward movement. If we look closely at the silver TL chart, after reaching the 88 TL and 94 TL region, it has now successfully started to hold above the cloud region. In other words, the silver TL pair has clearly entered the positive zone as well. The 113 TL level has now become a solid support area for it. As long as it continues to hold this level, silver is also in a clear upward trend. These are just my humble personal opinions. There haven't been any significant changes in the trends I mentioned and discussed in the previous video, the ones I am following. The new global news flow also continues to support what we've discussed. In my opinion, gold has clearly entered a trend where it will rise even further. Silver is currently in a structure where it will in some way follow gold. It has also entered the positive zone, and on the other hand, I still do not have a positive outlook on the American stock market. I also have positions in Borsa Istanbul that I evaluate on their own merits. We have the opportunity to discuss these matters more clearly and openly during the YouTube members-only chat and live broadcasts. Anyone who wishes can join us in those chats. One of the places where we can clearly see the ongoing global tension in the charts is the volatility index. And when we look at the volatility index, it is currently at the 20 level and has been building an upward structure for some time. Within this upward structure, we are in a region where the green cloud is lit up. In other words, a similar situation occurred here as well. If we ask what this means for us, it indicates that we are going through a trend in which volatility or price fluctuations are extremely high across all markets, and we need to be even more cautious. You need to adjust your investments accordingly. Here we can say that when the volatility index is above the 23 level, price fluctuations in the markets increase significantly. During this period, oil is a data point that the markets are following a bit less closely. Oil is not being monitored very closely in this process, but I think it is on the verge of an important trend break as well. American crude oil, which is at the $66 level, will potentially enter a significant upward area if it surpasses the $67 level. The rise in oil prices has become one of the factors that further increases pressure in the markets. In summary, if we look at the situation today, American stock market investors and cryptocurrency investors are not very happy. These markets have seen the most risk-off selling. We are in a period where investors in the cryptocurrency market are especially unhappy. Bitcoin has not been able to turn the $65,000, $66,000 levels into a bottom area and show a rebound. If it had shown a move climbing above the $78,000 levels, at least we would have entered a positive movement area there as well. For example, silver, along with gold, has clearly gained this trend, but Bitcoin has not yet managed to do so. And currently, the $73,269 level has become a resistance here. This is the area we would define as the resistance band in Bitcoin right now. There isn't much volatility in prices, specifically in the cryptocurrency market. As I explained in the last video, there aren't any new things to discuss or say in the cryptocurrency market. But there is a cryptocurrency market that continues to accumulate at the bottom levels. We can clearly see that investors are having a very hard time being patient. When we look at products like Ethereum or XRP, there aren't any major fluctuations in them either. They haven't broken away from the bottom levels and climbed to higher areas. Look, for XRP as well, it needs to regain the $1.62 level. For Ethereum, we can say that this level is $2,453. When we look at the overall markets at the weekly opening, the cryptocurrency market once again became one of the most lagging and unpriced areas. Right after that come the American stock indices and shares. Apart from this, investors in other areas of the markets are still happy. Uptrends are clearly continuing in gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and also in Borsa Istanbul. Technically, these trends are also continuing in a consistent manner. And within these trends, I personally don't have much hope for the American stock market during this period. But when it comes to the cryptocurrency market, I think we should have already seen at least a comeback move and action by now. This is just my humble personal opinion. Other than these, for now, there is nothing else I can add regarding the markets at the weekly opening. But there will be a lot to talk about because the world has truly become very chaotic and it will probably continue to be so. And as a final word, I want to tell you this. No matter what happens to prices, I hope you stay in good spirits. See you in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Subscribing to my channel and turning on notifications is an investment advice for yourself. With the intention of informing you about developments before they even happen, see you again soon.